Al Armendariz was an EPA official who, down in 2010, went to Texas to talk to a town because they were having some trouble. They had apparently had methane and benzene in their drinking water. Some of their kids' teeth were falling out, and he was very, very concerned. And he gave a speech about, hey, look, if somebody has done this illegally, we're going to go after him. Well, Senator Inhofe from Oklahoma doesn't like to hear that because his main job is to protect the oil companies because he's a Republican. That's what he does. And so he came out on the Senate floor 2 years later and said this.
And today I'd like to draw attention to a little-known video from 1910, which shows a top EPA official, Region 6 Administrator Al Armendariz, using the vivid metaphor of crucifixion to explain EPA's enforcement tactics over oil and gas production.
All right. By the way, of course, it's 2010, not 1910, but that's usually where Inhofe's mind is. Like, if we could just go back to 1910. All right. So he says, oh, my God, this guy threatening to go after oil companies. And, of course, Fox News goes crazy. They run the tape a great number of times, as I'm about to tell you. And what they left out, of course, was the context. 57% of the time, they talk about the crucifixion, but don't air the full tape. So let me give you the full portion of the tape that we're talking about here. And listen to what he says about companies that are not in compliance. Watch.
I was in a meeting once and I gave an analogy to my staff about my philosophy of enforcement, and I think it was probably a little crude and maybe not appropriate for the meeting, but I'll go ahead and tell you what I said. It was kind of like how the Romans used to conquer little villages in the Mediterranean. They'd go to a little Turkish town somewhere, they'd find the first 5 guys they saw, and they'd crucify them. And then, that town was really easy to manage for the next few years. And so you make examples out of people who are, in this case, not complying with the law.
Not compliant with the law. And he went on to explain, look, if they are doing something illegal, we've got to make sure that we go after them so that there is deterrence. Now, do you think that's how Fox is going to report it? Oh, hell no. Here's what they said instead.
This guy from the EPA who said a dumb thing, I'm not going to defend the crucifixion comment. It was a ridiculous thing to say, and Lisa Jackson, the administrator of the EPA, agrees with that.
Why is he still working there?
I don't know.
You can say that you treat citizens like serfs.
But wait a second.
And pick them at random to punish them, and you still have your job?
Should the head of the EPA step down?
This is the guy you hire to enforce real-life regulations against businesses with real-life economic costs? Some guy who's never been in the marketplace? Julie, let me ask you a serious philosophical question. Why the hatred against oil companies?
If the president wants to fix the controversy at the EPA, there's a very simple solution. He should follow the advice of the administrator. He should walk into the EPA headquarters, fire the first 5 people he sees, and it probably become an agency a little easier to manage from that point forward.
Stop trying to crucify oil companies. There you go.
Yeah, there you go indeed. Fox News. Protect the oil companies. Protect the oil companies. And look, if you've got to fire 5 regulators, that would send a great message. Don't regulate anything. Let them pollute all they want. Let them leak whatever they want into our water supply so that it harms our kids. Yeah, that's a great message, Fox News. We really appreciate it. Oh, look at the propaganda they do there. There's a lot of serious environmental issues over the last week. How much did they cover that? Not very much. How much did they cover this story? Over 2 hours of coverage in under a week. That is amazing. All the other stories combined, and then you times it by 10, and that's the kind of coverage that Fox News gave to this nonsense, non-story. So, of course, at the end, what is the result? Let me read you a statement from Al Armendariz. I have come to the conclusion that my continued service will distract you and the agency from its important work. And, of course, Lisa Jackson then took that resignation and said she accepted it immediately. This is what they do, the Democrats, whenever they fire their own. Okay, it was going to be a distraction. It was going to be a distraction. Honestly, it's sickening to me. They keep running and running and running from Fox News. They fire everybody who gets criticized. You remember, of course, this list. There was Van Jones, gone. Shirley Sherrod, gone. Al Armendariz now, gone. All gone because Fox News criticized them. How sad is that? Here's a crazy idea. Why don't you actually fight back and say, you know what? I'm going to protect your kids. I'm not going to let them pollute. I'm not going to let them break the law. You want to have an argument about that? Let's have at it, okay? No, of course. Tuck tail, run. Classic Democrats. So did it work? Look at Inhofe. He says now his resignation in no way solves the problem of President Barack Obama and his EPA's crucifixion philosophy. So they're going to go after you 110% anyway. Why did you do it? And now here comes Rick Perry's spokesperson, Lucy Nashid, and she says, we will urge the administration to replace him with someone who will work to protect our natural resources in a way that bolsters the economy rather than vilifying our nation's energy producers. Protect oil, protect the big oil, protect big oil. That's all the Republicans want, and unfortunately, that's exactly what the Obama administration is giving them. For the love of God, will you one day actually fight them instead of running away? All right, let's bring in an expert on this issue. Josh Fox is the director of Gasland, and it's obviously a movie about fracking that we have covered before. Josh, it's not just that they let Al go here, but the policy they keep buckling on as well. I mean, how's it? Okay, that's my interpretation, but what's your interpretation of how they have regulated here?
I actually don't agree with that. I think that Al's decision, and I know him for several years now, he was in Gasland, and he was first in Gasland not as EPA administrator, but as a researcher on air quality in Texas. And I think that what Al did was probably a very personal decision, knowing that this is a witch hunt, and it is about attacking the messenger rather than actually looking at the message. And if you look at the EPA, there are air regulations that are on the books that they've just come out that actually do something really significant, and I think that, that's important to recognize. But just to put all these things in context, what Al was in Gasland, the film, for was because he was a researcher at SMU, and he pointed out that the oil and gas sector caused as much air pollution in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as all of the cars and trucks in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. So that the 10,000 at the time, or actually it was about 7,000, 8,000 gas wells in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in the Barnett Shale, were causing as much air pollution as all the cars and trucks in that in Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, both cities and all the suburbs in between.
Right, and now
so
he's
he pointed that out, and that's why he was in Gasland. Then the Obama administration appointed him because of actually this amazing work that he was doing in Texas as a researcher, as Region 6 administrator, and this guy had been under an incredibly heavy attack by the Republicans for a very long time.
Yeah, you know, I'd come out swinging.
I'm not going to weigh in on Al's decision. All I'm going to try to tell you is that in that situation in Texas, you had asthma rates for young children at 3 times the national average. You had a situation where breast cancer rates went down across all of Texas and across the nation, and in the Barnett Shale, they went up. When you have people in Texas that I interviewed myself, and these were people who are former Republicans who avowed to me that they were now switching to become independents, with fracking fluids in their lungs. The real tragedy here is that you lose a great advocate for public health, and you lose a great advocate for citizens' rights. And I think that what we're talking here, if we feed into this media cycle of bash and create the controversy and talk about this one comment, which I agree was not probably the best choice of words, but was talking about enforcement where people are actually putting folks' lives in danger.
Josh,
you know?
I have no problems with his words. I wish they would. I wish they'd go after the guys who broke our laws incredibly aggressively. Look, I came from a Turkish town. I don't mind the analogy. Okay, go get them, okay, if they break the law. And by the way, so final thing, and real quick here, but look, the bottom line is he pointed out all those problems. He tried to do something about it in the EPA, and you know what? And that water was flammable, like in your movie. You see, because of fracking, flammable. And what happened? They withdrew those regulations.
Well, I don't think they withdrew the regulations on the air quality issues that Al was working on, and the cases that he is working on.
There's the air quality, and then there's the water.
Right. Well, the water quality enforcement orders in Texas are going on, and the truth is this is a real deep loss. And that what we should be doing here is focusing on the public health crisis that is emerging from that oil and gas sector, and talking about how this is playing politics with people's lives in the worst possible way.
Right.
And I think that the decision there was to step back from what was going to certainly be a media circus and something that you know, look, I mean, this is I know Al, and I know that this is a very personal decision, but what I don't want to get lost here is the fact that in that part part of Texas, and as is happening, unfolding across Pennsylvania, you have a public health crisis where oil and gas is coming in. And that is something that absolutely needs to be dealt with and needs to be talked about.
All right, Josh Fox from Gasland. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And look, this is not the first time this has happened, okay? 3 strikes and you're out. You run, you run, you run. It's not his personal decision. They pushed him out. They always push him out because whenever Fox attacks, they can't wait to run for the hills. That's the reality, in my opinion. All right.